Hello everyone and welcome to It Goes Off. Happy New Year to everyone. 2013 shaping up to be a fantastic year if the New Year's Eve and the games last weekend are anything to go by. Grantley Bernard. The Melbourne Tigers keeping their season alive, as has the Townsville Crocs, and the Wollongong Hawks and Sydney Kings would have to be feeling just a little bit vulnerable.
I think they would, especially the Hawks. The Hawks are starting to slip a little bit. The Kings split on the weekend. They did a pretty good job. Your Melbourne Tigers have won 3 in a row now and are just sort of starting to sneak up. And the Townsville Crocs truly are back from the dead, aren't they? They
are back from the dead, and a lot of credit's got to go to Luke Neville, because it's no coincidence that their season has turned around since he's arrived. Gary Irvin doing a fantastic job. Jacob Holmes, regards to him, broke a bone in his leg, so he's going to be out 6 to 10 weeks, so that's a big blow. But still, they've worked their way back into the season. But Grantley, talk us through all the winners and losers in Week 13 of the IONET NBL.
Lucky Week 13 was actually unlucky Week 13 yet again for the Adelaide 36ers. They lost 75-61 at home to the Townsville Crocodiles. Adam Gibson with 22 points and 7 boards. The Sixers shot just 5 of 27 on threes, 22 of 74 on field goals, and only 12 of 20 on free throws. Their shot has gone missing. Cairns Taipans 66 lost to the Perth Wildcats 85. Jamar Flip Wilson, 17 points for the Taipans, who had 24 turnovers and only 9 points in the first quarter and the fourth quarter of that game. Kevin Lish for the Wildcats with 26 points. Perth had 26 points from those 24 Cairns turnovers. Sydney Kings 86 defeated the Adelaide 36ers 82. Ben Madgen, 30 points on 11 of 17 shooting from the field. Adam Gibson backed up his good first game with 19 points for the Sixers, who went 0-2 on the weekend. The Wollongong Hawks 76 against the New Zealand Breakers 78. Reece Martin with a big game, 28 points for the Hawks. The Hawks only had 6 points in the paint in that game, but that was probably because they went 13 of 25, 52% on 3-point field goals. The Breakers had a big edge in the boards, 39 to 22. CJ Bruton with the game-winning basket. And finally, the Melbourne Tigers 74 over the Sydney Kings 71. Chris Golding, 18 points. The Tigers had 38 to 22 points in the paint. The margin was never above 6 in the fourth quarter in that game, but the Tigers hung on. Ben Madgen with 16 points, but nobody was talking about Ben Madgen's 16 points after that game.
No, and we're going to get into that because there was a little bit of chairgate going on. Still some investigations. The NBL are investigating an incident that occurred with Ben Madgen where he just expressed himself, got a little bit emotional and threw a chair. So it could be serious repercussions for that little brain phrase, but phase, I think it is.
Freeze?
It was a combination of freeze and phase, so it's a phrase. And but Grantley, if we take a look at the NBL ladder, the New Zealand Breakers on top of the table, 1-4 and playing some good basketball, but I actually don't think they're playing quite as sharply as the Perth Wildcats are at the minute, Grantley, and the Perth Wildcats are 10-4, but both those two teams have fluctuated ever so slightly, but they look like the two form teams of the competition. The Sydney Kings at 10-7 played a lot of games, and it's all downhill now as far as the schedule is concerned for the Sydney Kings. They've gone through a tough phase and have come out smelling like roses. The Wollongong Hawks got plenty of work to do at 8-6, and then the Melbourne Tigers, 3 in a row and 3 impressive wins in 5th spot, and the Townsville Crocs. Who would have thought? 0-9 to start the season, Grantley, and now 5-10. They've won 5 in a row, but the only thing is about that 5 in a row, take nothing away from the Townsville Crocs because they have turned their season around, but 3 of those wins have come against the Adelaide 36ers. So, as you see, Adelaide are in 7th place, and the Cairns Taipans Stone Cold Motherly at the moment at 4-10 and got plenty of work to do. Grantley, it's now time of the show where we like to take a look at all the major issues going around the IONET NBL in a little segment we call Tick It Off. And first up, we're going to get to the big issue of Week 13, and that was Ben Madgen. Great game, I thought, between the Melbourne Tigers and the Sydney Kings. Very, very competitive, free flowing, good scoring. But Ben Madgen, we take a look at some of the vision, and there you see it. He made a lap, stumbled, good no call, lands to the ground, and there it is, picks up the chair and just was channeling some WWF or WWE or what it was, and throwing a chair.
Not a good look.
Terrible look.
Not a good look, and that it is going to go to the NBL tribunal. It's going to be interesting to see how they deal with this. I think this is one that really reflects the image of the game, and it's probably unfortunate that the NBL only really makes it onto the network news when something bad happens. The NBL was on the network news on Sunday night because something bad happened, and I think if Ben Madgen gets found guilty by the NBL tribunal, I think he's going to sit for at least a game.
So do you think it's not a good look? And I look at it though and can understand the emotion of the situation. No one really got hurt. Something terrible could have happened, I suppose. But do you think that there's any way the NBL tribunal could maybe hand out a fine, or do you think they really need to come down on this and a suspension is the only punishment that you can see fit?
Well, they can hand out whatever they.
But what do you think they should do?
I would think, under the circumstances, I think probably a game would suffice. I think it sends a message. I think it sends the right message.
Perhaps a little fine, a suspended sentence would be my guess. But who knows, Grantley? And it's Ben Madgen's been fantastic, coming off a 30-point game on the weekend. And you don't only like to see superstars not playing, but he did walk a very, very thin line with those actions.
I'd say he crossed the line.
May have crossed it. Grantley, one of the other issues that is buzzing around is what is going on with the Adelaide 36ers. We've been dealing with this right throughout the season, but it's starting to get to an almost farcical situation where they've lost 8 consecutive games. Now, they have got way more talent than can justify 8 consecutive losses. So, what do you think is going to happen? What's the explanation? They've got Scott Christopherson, who's come into the lineup. He hasn't been all that explosive in his outing so far.
He's about as explosive as a wet firework, wasn't he? I mean, have a look at his numbers. He played 22 minutes against the Crocs, 0-5 from the field, 5 rebounds, 1 point. Played 13.5 minutes against the Kings for 2 rebounds and no field goal. Didn't have a shot for the game. That's your new import. Can anyone say Mike Dunnigan?
Well, Mike Dunnigan, a big fella. They've got Luke Shencher and they do have Daniel Johnson, who can play inside out. So I'm not sure. My personal opinion is that they need a point guard. They need someone that can take control of the game in the point guard spot, both with the penetration and getting the team organised. But a lot of speculation about the coaching position of Marty Clark, which is never pleasant. But I guess when you've lost 8 in a row and the record they've got, that questions are always going to be asked. One of the things I did notice, and I only heard this after the game on Sunday against the Melbourne Tigers, Rowan Short is no longer with the Melbourne Tigers. He's resigned. Now, I'm not suggesting that Rowan Short would be the head coach of the Adelaide 36ers, but perhaps with some of his associations in the past, do you think that there's...
You think
do
you think Trevor Gleeson could be heading over there? Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is, have you heard any explanation about why Rowan Short resigned as one of the assistant coaches of the Melbourne Tigers?
No, I haven't.
And neither have I. But could be just a coincidence, maybe going on, doing other ventures. We don't want to read anything to it, but I had to ask you the question.
I think, though, with Marty Clark, just on Marty Clark, I think he's coming to the end of his 3-year contract.
Yep.
I think it's fair to say that Adelaide's probably got to win the championship from here for him to stay in Adelaide.
Well, I think if they even get in contention for making the playoffs, it's going to be a remarkable turnaround based on their form right now. But he certainly would feeling a bit of pressure, you would think.
I would say the pressure, the needle is over the red, and it's just about ready to bend. But you say Adelaide need a point guard. Well, I think that if can't Adam Gibson play that role and handle that role when Nathan Croswell was his backup?
Outstanding player. Don't forget Jason Cadee as well in there.
Cadee?
But right now, I think that Jason Cadee is a work in progress, young fella showing some outstanding signs of the potential to be a superstar. Nathan Croswell probably tapering off towards the end of his career. Very good
backup.
Great backup. Not a good backup, a great backup. Adam Gibson is that combo 1-2. Now, he's okay at a 1. He's very good as a 2. And perhaps that now it would give him greater freedom, get the ball out of his hands as much. Don't let him concentrate so much on running the team and the associated responsibilities of being a point guard. Get someone there. He can rely more on his shooting and his defender, one of the better defenders in the competition, and perhaps it's a win-win. But let's just wait and see what...
I think Adelaide would take just one win at the minute.
Scott Christopherson, we got to give him a bit of a chance, but he's more, you look at his history, he's more of a 2 than he is a 1, so it remains to be seen.
Maybe I should have signed Chris Christopherson.
Grantley, the Wildcats are 3-1 at home, 6 of the next 7, and 10 out of the next 14 at home. I'm on the Wildcats bandwagon, even though they're in second place right now, but they've done the hard yards as far as the road schedule is concerned, and it's hard to figure how they're not going to finish in positions 1 or 2.
I fancy that they'll finish in position 1. I think with that home schedule coming up, they do have to go to New Zealand to play the Breakers in New Zealand, and off the top of the head, I think they've got the Tigers on the road and the Kings on the road and one other. So not a really demanding situation for the Wildcats. And I think with 10 of your last 14 at home, I think they're just going to be sitting back, smoking the cherry, getting ready for the playoffs.
They do look very, very good, and full compliments to Rob Beveridge and what he's been able to do with that particular lineup. And last one in this segment, the Townsville Crocs. They've won 5 in a row, 3 of them against the Adelaide 36ers. Luke Neville's been sensational. Gary Irvin really getting back to his very best form. Do you give them any chance whatsoever? Currently they are 5-10. Now they've given a massive head start. Any chance at all for the Townsville Crocs?
Well, you've got to say they've got a chance, especially if Wollongong keeps slumping. But it's still a big ask. But never say never.
And Jacob Holmes, his loss.
That'll hurt. Leading rebounder, good experienced head, can knock down the 3 ball when he needs to. It is a loss, but like you say, Luke Neville comes in, Irvin's doing a great job. I think they'll be okay. They may just keep on keeping on.
Could be one of the great stories this season if they are able to turn it around, and we wish them well. Grantley, as we do every single week, we love to get the feedback from the viewers out there, and the Facebook page is the best way to do that. The NBL Facebook page just going 8 droppings. It is amazing the feedback that's coming off the NBL Facebook page or Twitter. NBL Twitter or Andrew Gage 10, the less active Grantley Bernard, but still quality tweets coming from Grantley. And this is a little segment. We're going to bring it back this year. It's called the Mark Zuckerberg Minute. And this week, we started off, Grantley, from Nat, where you at? So this must be off the Twitter, I would think. Grantley, is that right?
I think it might be off the
Nat,
Facebook.
where you at? Who has underachieved more, Adelaide or the Cairns Taipans? Good question, Nat, where you at?
Simple answer. Adelaide.
I think Cairns are making a very late charge to sort of shorten the gap. But right now, the Adelaide 36ers, Nat, where you're at, are the biggest underachievers so far this season. Next one, coming from Luke Maguire. Has Johnny Flynn helped or hurt the Tigers? Grantley.
I think you have to say he's helped the Tigers. Without question, I think definitely an upgrade on what they had. And not only has he helped the Tigers win ball games, but he's also entertaining. And the people love to watch him play. So I think he's been a win-win for the Tigers.
He has, and one of the statistics that I learnt last weekend covering the game against the Sydney Kings, since Johnny Flynn has arrived, the turnover situation has got well and truly within realistic numbers since his arrival. Before he arrived, the Melbourne Tigers were 9.5, sort of 20 turnovers a game. Since him arriving, they're now down to 12.5, 13 turnovers a game, which is right smack bang on the league average. So there are indisputable statistical facts that the worth of Johnny Flynn, and as you mentioned, just speaks well, loves the game, and great for the fans. So I think we give Johnny Flynn the double thumbs up. Grantley, big round coming up. It's week 14 in the INET NBL. Please tell the good folk out there where they can go this weekend and catch some high-octane, spectacular INET NBL action.
Well, it all starts on Friday night up in North Queensland. It's your Townsville Crocodiles on their 5-game winning streak against the top of the table New Zealand Breakers. Then it's the Wollongong Hawks against the Cairns Taipans. That one is on 1 at 9 p.m. Get onto that one nationally. On Sunday, it's the Adelaide 36ers against the Sydney Kings. That one is shown nationally on 10 at 2 o'clock. And then the Perth Wildcats against the Melbourne Tigers way out west.
We're back. It's the elongated one-off version of It Goes Off. A lot more fun doing it this way, Grantley. A lot more work, but it's good fun, isn't it?
Oh, loving it.
As we do every week, we like to pay respect and homage to those good folk that help this great game, and it all starts with the naming rights sponsor of the NBL, and that is, of course, IINet.
Connect better.
10
and 1.
Spalding
and for
and Virgin Australia. My, they do a great job carting all the players right throughout this beautiful country of ours. A lot going on this weekend in the INET. Really starting to get to that pointy end of the season. A lot at stake for those clubs outside the playoffs, and those two clubs in particular trying to hang on to those spots in the top 4. So get out there, check out the action, and support your team. We look forward to your company next week on another enthralling episode of the #1 podcast in the universe. And Grantley, what's it called?
It Goes Off.